Hello. This video reviews Apostrophe to the Ocean from Childe Harold's Pilgrimage by George Gordon, Lord Byron. The two sonnets by Wordsworth in our text, The World is Too Much With Us, and London, 1802. On our Romantic Age prompt sheet for our Romantic Age essay test, we have the following correlation. In Apostrophe to the Ocean, number 1, love of the power of nature. Also 4, seeing nature as a retreat from troubles. The world is too much with us is letter E, and that correlates to theme 3, criticism of society. Number 6, emphasis on one's memory and feelings, not logic and reason. And then F, the sonnet London 1802, correlates with theme 3, criticism of society, as well as 7, glorifying the past or remembering the past fondly. So for our Romantic Age test, of course, you are to pick one of the 8 listed characteristics of Romanticism and then discuss 2 works of literature from our unit that correlate with that theme. So our Apostrophe to the Ocean in our textbook is found on page 626. I'll be looking here at the online version with you as we go through. But you notice that an apostrophe is not a punctuation mark in this case. Apostrophe is used to signify an address to something or someone that does not answer the poet back. Many times it is an inanimate object, or it may be, in the case of London 1802, someone who has died, but the poet is addressing that person as if that person or thing is present and can hear. So we start out with Apostrophe to the Ocean. There is a pleasure in other aspects of nature, in the pathless woods, or on the shore, or by the sea, but to him the sea holds a majesty unlike anything else on the entire planet. He comments, I love not man the less, but nature more. So yes, it does fit into the theme of nature to a degree, but most of these Romantic Age poets, even when they talk about nature, it reflects something about humanity as well. Roll on, thou deep and dark blue ocean, roll. 10,000 fleets sweep over thee in vain. Man marks the earth with ruin. His control stops with the shore. Upon the watery plain the wrecks are all thy deed, nor doth remain a shadow of man's ravage save his own. So all the things that we have done to tame the land on planet Earth, we can't tame the ocean. We can pave over the land, we can till the land, we can move mountains even. But we have done nothing to make much of an impact on taming the ocean. His steps are not upon thy paths. In other words, man's steps are not upon the ocean's paths. Thy fields are not a spoil for him. Thou dost arise and shake him from thee. The vile strength he wields for earth's destruction, thou dost all despise. So if he's personifying the ocean in this apostrophe, and many times an apostrophe is a type of personification, the ocean would look at the land and go, well, look what man is doing to the land, but he can't come over here and do it to me. And so we cannot till the ocean, we cannot tame the ocean and shape it the way we often do with the land. The armaments which thunderstrike the walls of rock-brick cities, bidding nations quake and monarchs tremble in their capitals, the yoke leviathans, the big ships, whose huge ribs make their clay creator the vain title take of Lord of thee and arbiter of war, these are thy toys. And so just as the ocean sometimes swallows ships, it just plays with them. And as mighty as the ships are, the ocean has the last word sometimes. Whether it's, he says, the Armada's pride, the Spanish Armada in the Elizabethan days, or the spoils of Trafalgar in the Victorian era. Thy shores are empires, changed in all save thee. And then he lists a number of ancient empires. Assyria, Greece, Rome, Carthage. What are they? Thy waters washed them power while they were free, and many a tyrant since. Their shores obey the stranger, slave or savage. Their decay has dried up realms to deserts. Not so thou, unchangeable. Man has even altered the land to such a degree that he has created deserts out of what once was fertile land, but he hasn't changed the ocean. And then we get to a section that Byron has that tells about the glorification of that aspect of nature. And unlike a poet like Shelley, for example, who was an atheist, Byron chooses to mention the Creator in his poem. Thou glorious mirror, where the Almighty's form glasses itself in tempests, in all time calm or convulsed, in breeze, gale, or storm, icing the pole, or the torrid clime dark even, boundless, endless, and sublime, the image of eternity, the throne of the invisible. So the way he sees it, the ocean is God's mirror. God can look down from heaven at the ocean. No wonder the ocean is so majestic, he says, because you mirror the Creator. And so that is linking, just as Wordsworth often does, though not obviously in such an overt style, but it links the Creator with the created world. So that's one of our Romantic Age ideas, that appreciation of nature is in itself appreciation of the Creator who created nature. And then on a very personal note, he ends, and I have loved thee, ocean, and my joy of youthful sports was on thy breast. To be borne like thy bubbles onward, from a boy I wanton with thy breakers, there to me were a delight, and if the freshening sea made them a terror, 'twas a pleasing fear. For I was as it were a child of thee, and trusted to thy billows far and near, and laid my hand upon thy mane, as I do here. Byron loved swimming. He was born with a club foot, flattened on one side, turned inward a little bit, and so he wasn't able to participate in a lot of sports that the other boys did, but he decided he was going to be the best at everything. And so he was the top student. He became champion athlete by being the league boxer at school, as well as the champion swimmer at school. And so he loved the ocean. It gave him a freedom unlike any other kind of sport that he engaged in. And so he said, I loved to swim in you when I was a boy, and if I was a little afraid of you, it was at least a pleasing fear. And so he ends there with a very, very personal connection to the ocean. In The World Is Too Much With Us in London 1802, we see Wordsworth coming out here as an older man, now as a literary critic, and not just a literary critic really, but as a societal critic. In The World Is Too Much With Us, world takes on the meaning of the business world, or the stressful world, or worldly things. And so he says, the world is too much with us. In other words, we're not in nature, we're in man's world. We're in the business world, we're in the stressful world. Late and soon getting and spending, there's that getting and spending, so it's the world of commerce. We lay waste our powers, our natural abilities that we have. Little we see in nature that is ours. We've given our hearts away a sordid boon. The sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the winds will be hauling at all hours, and are upgathered now like sleeping flowers. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. So we have a couple of companion lines. We lay waste our powers, and we are out of tune. Now how? By not being involved in nature as much as we once were. And so nature to Wordsworth is always, we saw this in Tintern Abbey, is always a retreat from the pressures and stresses of life. And then in the last section of this sonnet, and you notice if we go back up, soon, powers, hours, boon. Moon, hours, flowers, tune. So it is an Italian sonnet with that ABBA rhyme scheme, which means that we have 8 lines, or about 8 lines. He fudges on one of the lines and cuts it short. But mostly the 8 lines present a problem. The last 6 lines present his conclusion or solution. And then he says, great God, I'd rather be a pagan suckle than a creed outworn. In other words, I'd rather be somebody back in the ancient days, back in ancient Greece and Rome, who believed in pagan gods because at least they were nature gods. So he said he'd rather be a pagan suckle than a creed outworn. Somebody back in ancient Greece and Rome who used to believe in the old gods. At least they believed, he said, in something. And he looks at modern man, and modern man doesn't seem to believe in anything at all. And especially modern man, he says, is separated from nature. And at least people back in the old days worshiped nature gods. So they were connected to nature in a very real way. And he imagines if he did believe in those old gods, he could use his imagination and see some of the old sea gods rising from the ocean, Proteus and Triton. Then in London 1802, he's even stricter, he's even harsher with what he says. Before, in the previous sonnet, he was kind of saying it tongue-in-cheek. But in this one, not at all. In this one, he is very, very serious. We have an apostrophe to John Milton, the long-dead Puritan poet who wrote Paradise Lost. But Milton was a fellow who worked for Oliver Cromwell in the government, the Puritan government against the Royalists. And John Milton worked for him as Latin secretary. So Milton was a very religious man. He was a very political man. But to Wordsworth, he was also a good man. And he's afraid people have lost that goodness. And he asks for Milton to come back to life. He said, we have some problems: altar, sword, and pen, fireside. Now, what do those metaphors represent? Altar would represent the church, maybe even marriage itself, but less specifically the church. Sword, probably the government or the military. Pen, P-E-N, representing the arts or writing. Fireside, the hearth or the fireplace, is always a symbol of the home. So look what he says is all messed up in their society: church, government, the arts, and the home. So if those things are messed up, everything's messed up in one society. So he wants Milton to come back. He says, we're selfish men, raise us up, return to us again. Well, he gave 4 aspects that were messed up, so he gives 4 things to fix. Give us manners, virtue, freedom, and power. Thy soul was like a star, the north star, a guiding light, and dwelt apart. Thou hadst a voice whose sound was like the sea, pure as the naked heavens, majestic and free. So didst thou travel in life's common way, in cheerful godliness, and yet thy heart the lowliest duties on herself did lay. So as Wordsworth wraps things up right here, he believes that Milton would be a good guiding light to come back to the people. Milton was religious, Milton was political, but Milton was also just a good man who really believed in what he was doing. And as Wordsworth looks at his society, he's afraid people have lost those good qualities that they once had.